Well, welcome to the Stone Roadie Podcast. This is the one you don't want to miss. It stars Craig Reed, the Stone Roadie, and Griff the rocket scientist. Let's not forget Kathy Gottsy and all the old friends come along. Lord Willie, talking Skynyrd, and leading you with a song.
Okay, looky here, as Craig says on the Stone Roadie Podcast. Griff Martin on the road again, and this is covering the Rockin' for a Reason, 29th of July. I just pulled up to the Van Zandt house where some people are meeting, and this is the sign, the marker outside of the house. This is what it looks like now. Pretty nice day, a little overcast and rainy, but this is where Ronnie Van Zandt grew up, and this is the house. And as Gene says, it's not really like it was then because there's some additions to it, but for the most part it's the original home, and they're in the center, I would say. And there's some pretty cool people inside, so we're gonna go inside and have a chat with one of the plane crash survivors, so we'll see you then. Okay, as I said outside that we were going to come inside, we had an interesting person here. This is Kay Coates and Paul Welch. Now, Kay Coates, this is Paul Welch's sister, and Paul Welch, of course, he was a sound guy with Shoko. Is that correct?
One of three.
One of three.
Local guys.
Four, right?
Total, including Kevin Olson.
Yeah.
Who always did Skynyrd's house sound.
And this was on the Street Survivors tour,
yes,
which was started in '77, correct?
It's Tour of the Survivors.
Tour of the Survivors.
That's what it was
Okay,
called.
keep me straight. Okay.
Yeah.
And so then then you were on the plane when it went down. So
Yes, I was.
so this is an interview that we're doing, taking advantage of talking to Paul Welch, because he's going to be a pretty busy guy when the concert comes about, and he's going to be signing a lot of autographs and talking to people, and people want to come meet him. And we're so glad you made it, Paul, because we were hoping that we could get you down here. We knew it was a long distance for you, so
Yeah, thanks to Kathy.
yeah, Kathy Keeble came by and got
Yes.
you, which
She,
I knew a lot of people were going to try to come get you, but it looked like she ended up.
Yeah, she was able to swing down to Nashville,
Yeah.
pick me up and drive me here, and has arranged for us to stay in Ronnie Van Zandt's old childhood home. And
Yeah, and this is the porch right here where Kay's sitting, and that's not the exact swing where Sister and Lacey sat, but it's the exact spot, I would say. But so Paul, how have you been doing lately? You've been hanging in there?
all things considered, I'm
Yeah.
doing as well as can be expected, better than I deserve, as the saying goes. I'm enjoying connecting with people I have not met, you know, like yourself, for instance, and
Well, we met back at the memorial unveiling,
yeah.
but again, you were so busy that you couldn't remember me at that time.
now,
you know.
there were so many people, so many things happening
Right.
at the dedication of the memorial. But I do know that today, for the first time, well, I believe today for the first time, I met Aunt Jane Van Zandt, and great to hear her and some of her stories and some of our reminiscences, some of our memories of people we know or knew in common. You know, be they Ronnie, obviously, and Jimmy, and Z, who were also cousins of Ronnie, and we've spoken of Donnie and Johnny, and
You worked with Donnie when 38 Special.
Yeah, I did sort of work with them. They did a show, and I accompanied them to the studio in Denver where they did the post-production touch-up cleanup work on a King Biscuit Flower Hour. They recorded at the Rainbow Music Hall in Denver, Colorado. And I don't have any idea of the date, sometime in the 80s, but that's all I know.
Well, one thing that was really interesting, and I was talking to Paul earlier about that, is a lot of people don't realize that one of Ronnie Van Zant's pickiest peeves was his monitor.
Yeah.
You know, and if you didn't have the monitor just right, you know, you could see him. I've heard he's even kicked in the speaker before, you know, and because he didn't enjoy it. So I was asking Paul, you know, what was it like, man, trying to be the monitor guy for Ronnie Van Zant? And tell me that story about the whistle.
Okay. Now, I didn't know Ronnie's reputation for difficulty in doing. I noticed what we did on this tour is one sound check. Didn't do them at all the venues. We learned the material as the band played, and the first time they played That Smell, I noticed in the song where Ronnie did that, you know, hellacious,
That
loud
shrieking whistle, yeah.
And we didn't, no one commented on it, but it was painfully loud on stage because, you know, his microphone in the monitor system fed these slant monitors all over the stage. You know, most band members had their own monitor. Artemis had his own monitor system in parallel with the Show monitor system. And in addition, there were, on each of those monitors were being powered by 600 watts of crown power. And we also had two side fill stage monitors that, you know, fired across the stage in a wash sort of situation. And each of those side fill monitors was powered by 1800 watts of crown power. So there was quite a bit of sound reproduction stuff on the stage, and that whistle in close proximity with that kind of power, it was extremely attention.
Right. So when Ronnie sent that whistle out, it was really loud, and it was uncomfortably loud, right?
Yes, quite so. And so I noted where it happened. So that night when we did the first show, or maybe it was the next night we did the show, I don't recall. In any case, the first show after that sound check, I noticed where that whistle was, and I spoke with the head Shoko engineer on that tour, Don Kretschmar, and we agreed when that time came, I turned Ronnie's microphone off on the stage, so that whistle was not amplified, picked up by any of the, or is not reproduced by any of the monitors on stage. You know, the two up by the Honkats, you know, the one is at the feet of you know, Leon, Gary, Belly, Allen had monitors at their feet. Artemis had 4 Bose 901 loudspeakers on poles on his drum riser. We turned off that whistle in the monitors, and the band could hear the whistle, acoustically over the 40-foot wide stage probably, but and you could also hear it echoing through the mains that was, you know, trained on the audience, but there was no painfully loud whistle coming at them on the stage. And I recall the look of bliss on Alan Collins' face when I shut them off. Alan just looked so pleased and grinned a massive beaming smile at me. And I later found out that Ronnie appreciated that, although we had never spoken about it.
Yeah.
But it was something they really appreciated. And,
well, think about how many years he'd been doing that until you came up with the idea to.
Well, I don't know that I was.
Well, I'd imagine.
Engineer,
Yeah.
I was.
They all knew when that whistle was coming too, but
Yes,
but they didn't look forward to it.
Yeah. Right. Well.
Was it as easy as just flipping a switch, or did you have to turn things down?
In this case, it was just turning his microphone off,
Gotcha.
flipping a switch, and then immediately turning it back on, a mute switch, and the band appreciated it, and. I don't know that I was the first engineer who'd done sound for Skynyrd who thought of that, but I do know I had to have been one of the first, because they had been touring and before the tour of the Survivors started, and I'm sure they had done That Smell or I Know a Little or some of the hot Street Survivors numbers on those tours, on previous shows.
Right.
And so others may have thought to turn the microphone off.
Well, that's probably one of many ideas that you probably would have come up with had you been able to go through the rest of the tour. And but
or if he's going to have his memoirs,
yeah, I was just going to mention that we don't want to talk too much about Paul's past and give too much away, because Kay is working with Paul on some memoirs, and they want to get those things together, and she's doing some interviews and things like that with him. So
and he was only 23, and he already worked with 50 at least top name acts at that point.
Oh yeah, right.
So that's all those stories. Of course, the Skynyrd stories will be there too.
Well, one thing we want to mention is today's Paul's birthday,
Good.
right? So it's a how many years is it, Paul?
69, I think.
69. Well, you're a young man in the Skynyrd group. You're still in your 60s. A young man still. If you're a a band support for Lynyrd Skynyrd. I mean, most of those guys are up in their 70s. Well, Paul, we appreciate you coming down. And we're looking forward to this concert, and we want to go visit with all the other guys, and you get to even see, of course, Dwayne Easley. He's going to be there. The guy that got you off the plane, and all the people that helped him. And which is a great reunion, right, Kay?
In fact, Dwayne, I'm not sure he was the one who pulled me out of the plane first. He probably was.
Yeah, he had some people helping.
Well,
but
actually, he wasn't inside the plane. He was one of the few people that was outside of the plane.
Oh, so you ended up outside.
I was able to clear that up for him when we were down
Like
there.
I was trying to say, it was Dwayne's dad, Percy. Who may have been, we don't know, he may have been the one who pulled me from the plane. But Dwayne was there at that time as well, and could have been, I don't know.
He's a hero, the guy's a hero,
Indeed.
Yeah.
And I know that I went back to the crash site in 1984, I believe it was.
No, it was
No, 81. Yeah, it was 4 years after the crash.
Right.
So it was 81 I went back and found the site and sat there, and it sounds cheesy perhaps, but myself and two friends, Brett and Stacy Richardson from Baton Rouge, who had tickets to that show and were looking forward to it when we crashed. On the anniversary in '81, we went back to that swamp and played it, a tape recorded, a copy of Free Bird, and it was a sad moment. But
yeah, it's kind of like a tribute that you did, an on-spot tribute
and
there.
I
Yeah.
sort of, several things happened at that moment that were rather good. Since I had woken out of my coma, I had stuttered terribly. I was frustrated any time I tried to speak, and apologizing for my stuttering only exacerbated that problem. But at the time of, at 6:47 p.m. Central Standard Time, October 20, 1981, in that swamp with Brett and Stacy drinking Jack Daniels and playing the tape, I no longer stuttered.
Wow. So it kind of gave you
as normal people do, as I've done several times in this interview, I occasionally stutter, but not continually, not in a way to minimize my speaking ability, I guess. And also at that time, prior to that, the last memory I have before the crash was when I saw the starboard engine burst into flames. And since that crash, a lot of memories have returned about what happened in the last moments of that flight. And in any case, after we had sat and cried and drank Jack Daniels and listened to Skynyrd, tried to get out of the swamp,
and somehow you miraculously got healed with the stuttering.
Yes, with that and memory loss and the like. And we stood up and couldn't see your hand over your face. It was totally pitch black.
Yeah.
And so we took unnecessary clothing, socks, whatever, wrapped them around twigs, lit them, and had torches we used to see out of, see in the woods to try to find our way out. We're hollering and trying to get out and couldn't find our way.
So that's kind of like something that I guess Dwayne experienced, maybe, huh? And the guys that were helping him.
When they came to help us, yes. As I understand it, shortly after the crash itself, a National Guard, I think, helicopter.
No, that's a whole different story.
Okay,
You've got that part mixed
in
up.
any case, at some point there was a helicopter hovering above us at the time of the crash with a floodlight. But
Yeah, that's the only reason they were able to see. Yeah.
Right. I was unaware of that at the time.
So Paul, going back to.
I haven't finished this part.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
After being lost out there with my friends Brett and Stacy, hollering, trying to get out, Percy Easley, Dwayne's dad, found us and pulled us out of the swamp, took us back to his house and sat us down and helped us get our bearings and our heads together.
Would you say that was somewhat therapeutic to you to go back out there?
As it turned out being, in that I and not only lost my stutter, but had regained many memories, and I had experienced that cathartic time with a couple of good friends.
Right. Yeah.
Jack Daniels.
Not something you'd want to go through by yourself, right?
Not particularly, no.
Well, let's move out of that discussion and talk a little bit about what's going to happen at the concert. So, from what I understand, there's going to be a lot of cool bands playing there, and they're going to have you guys sitting at a table, and there's some VIP tickets, and people are going to get some T-shirts and posters and things, and come by, and they're going to have you guys sign them, and so we're looking forward to a really good show. And what better way to celebrate a birthday, right, Kate?
Right. I get to see my brother.
69 years old, Paul Welch, plane crash survivor. The guy's still doing okay. I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore, but he's got some injuries. He's got some things going on, but that's what we're trying to help him here. So, Paul, we appreciate it, man. We don't want to drag too much stuff out of you and ruin your memoirs, man.
Well, it's not only that, it's just somewhat, it was starting to get kind of
tense. I can tell. I've talked to a lot of these guys,
and you reach a point where
right, and it's not good anymore. But we appreciate what you told us, and that's a great story about Ronnie Van Zant.
The last time we were together for his birthday?
Yeah.
It was in 2014, and I surprised him. I said, I'm taking you out to a restaurant. And who was there but Ed King and his wife Sharon.
Wow, how cool was that, right?
That was in 2014, and that
so you had a good little visit with Ed King.
Yeah. Well, we'd met a couple of times before.
Yeah.
But we'd not gotten together socially, had dinner together or anything. Well,
and tragically, we lost him.
Well, no, I know, but that's what I mean is I always take care of my brother, so I look up to him. He's my hero. So.
Well, look at us now. We're sitting out here on the Van Zant porch, right? Talking about old times with Lynyrd Skynyrd, right where Ronnie was probably running around with his baseball bat and little glove, or his, his little stick horse or whatever.
Well, and Donnie and Johnny too.
And Donnie and Johnny, so it's a long time ago, but we're celebrating Paul's birthday here, and we're going to have a great concert. So hey, thank you guys for your great words and your stories and things like that. And we're going to look forward to this concert, and we hope that the podcast viewers enjoyed this as I'm sure they did. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. See you.
Okay, look who we have here. We've got Brandon Miller and Zach Lane in the Van Zant house. And Zach's doing a little picking and a little grinning. I think he's even playing the keyboards at the same time. I don't know. How was you guys' drive?
Pretty good.
Pretty good? A lot of traffic, Brandon?
Not coming from Mississippi, no. I know they get some traffic from Virginia.
It's terrible in Virginia.
Are you guys your fingers all limbered up and everything?
Yeah, we're ready to go.
Ready to go? You got your vocal cords all tuned up? You do a lot of singing, man. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. So what do you guys think, man? It's gonna be cool, huh?
Yeah, we're staying at was it Bay Meadows?
Yeah.
Comfort Suites in Bay Meadows, I believe.
All right. Well, I'm gonna be getting back with you guys. I just wanted to show everybody. Here they are. Zach Lane, Brandon Miller in the Van Zant house. Break one out. Break one out.
Gary Lynn. There he is.
So we're in the kitchen of the Van Zant home. This is the first time Craig's been here since '77, and he just had a bowl of spaghetti, and he's getting ready to sign this guitar that Karen Weber brought, and we're going to kind of zoom in on it over here.
If you use a silver, you have to draw on the silver here to make sure it works. That's where you can use it on.
That way I can put the G right down in there. No, I can't do that.
Kind of of reminds me of Joe Biden trying to
Where am I going?
This could take a while, folks. Don't get nervous, Greg. We don't want it to look bad.
Almost right, right?
What do you think of that, Savannah?
What I think of what? The
What
signing?
Craig's doing? We just,
Oh man, he's making it look real nice.
there we go. Zoom in on that. Craig Reed signing a guitar, and this is for auction, right, Karen? Yeah. At the Van Zant dinner table.
There it is.